Well, the pace of transformation in the property sector remains low. That's according to a recent report by the Property Sector Charter Council. Nkuli Bogopa is president of the South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners, and she joins us now for more on that. Thank you so much, Nkuli, for your time today. So it's going backwards. What's happened?
So we're not really going backwards. I think the important thing to note, Sigi, is that we are measuring. For the first time, I think the sector started measuring from 5 years ago. Okay. 2012 is when we started taking statistics from the sector. And I think what is encouraging is that all the stakeholders that are participating with the property sector charter are cooperative in this process. So at least we know the magnitude of progress or regression, you know. So based on the property sector codes that were gazetted in 2012, what has happened is that the report has now come out, and that's the report that you are referring to now, and it indicates all the different areas of BEE scorecard elements and the areas in which we haven't been successful. Okay. And so it's suffice to say that we have not met our targets, except for 2 areas of the BEE scorecard, which is socioeconomic development as well as enterprise development, which is encouraging because it means we are seeing new entrants coming into the market.
All right, we'll start with the good stuff.
Yes.
What are those? What is being done well in those 2 specific areas?
Okay, so in those 2 specific areas, I think let me give you the macro picture. The macro picture is that the size of our economy, the sector economy, is 5.8 trillion, and in that we are a contributor of about 1.5% to the GDP of the country, which is quite significant. You know, we contribute 1.1% into the overall jobs space in the country, and we are a very significant contributor, and we've got about 100,000 sustainable jobs out of that. We also contribute significantly to the taxes. In direct taxes, it's actually just over 40%. Okay. So we are a major sector in that we do, in the overall picture, make a meaningful contribution to society, to the economy, and we are a sector that definitely has to be reckoned with. However, and therefore that places a bigger responsibility on us to ensure that we are transforming as we go along, you know. So enterprise development is seen through encouraging new entrants, and also our space is quite broad, so it is easy to create those new entrants. And with regards to socioeconomic development, so the areas of our successes have been seen by a lot of rural developments. You will see we've had recently a number of localized community shopping centers that are coming up in our rural areas, and those were the activations that have seen us have these successes, you know.
And we've seen the commercial property side doing pretty well, but what's happening on the residential side?
I am as equally concerned as you are. I have raised my frustrations, and I've been very passionate and vocal about how I feel to council as well. Yesterday we had an annual meeting, and I indicated that out of the 5.8 trillion that the sector is worth, 3.9 trillion of that sits squarely in residential. Therefore, the Department of Human Settlements has a huge role to play in the transformation landscape, because in actual fact, that is where people's lives are touched. And that 3.9, by the way, doesn't even talk to ownership, properties that are owned. It talks to properties that are rented, etc., etc. So Human Settlements has a far bigger role to play. I think we have made great strides with the Department of Public Works, and we're seeing a pretty much well-oiled machine that's coming along, and corporates coming along.
And this is important because, as you say, this touches particularly at where people are. So if you only have 10% of registered estate agents being black, it would explain why we have, for example, all of these incidents of racism in rental approval and those sorts of issues. How do we get more black people registering as estate agents?
I think what we need to do is look at the bigger picture. The EAAB, the Estate Agency Affairs Board, is only but one of the 9 agencies under the Department of Human Settlements.
Okay.
So if at the top, at the head of the department, we are not seeing transformation being filtered through and filtered down, and the requirements thereof, it's very little that the EAAB can do, and especially in the absence of a body that they can account to in terms of their transformation pace. But the work that is being done through the PSCC, which we're very close to, really helps us get to grips with what are these numbers, what are these statistics, and what are the programs we put in place. And I am aware that there are some programs that are coming out of the EAAB this year sometime, and hopefully we can fast track those and make sure that it leads to something a lot more meaningful.
And we'll be watching closely. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Today, Nkuli Bogopa is president of the South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners.